Hi, my name is Brian Crane. I'm the Director of Operations for the McMinnville School District.
My name is Jennifer Linder. I am a developmental psychologist and a professor of psychology at Linfield University.
Hello everyone, my name is Caitlin Denning and I am the Tobacco Prevention Education Program Coordinator with Yamaha County Public Health.
Hello, my name is Susan Inman and I am honored to represent Seroptimus International of Junction City.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate you being here. My name is Brian Crane. I'm the Director of Operations. I oversee safety and a number of other departments for the McMinnville School District. I'm going to give some short introductions about tonight, and then I'm going to hand it off to our moderator, Jason Hennis, who's here from the County Health and Human Services. We will have a slide in just a moment here that will show you how, if you're here in the audience or if you would like to ask a question online, you can text or email a number. So if you want to flash that up, and we'll put it up again. So if you have questions here tonight, or if you have questions at home, because we're broadcasting this live and we're recording it as well, then you can email or text this number and we will answer your question for you. All right. Couple housekeeping things. There's some snacks over here behind some of the people, and restrooms are down the hallway through those double doors over there. I'd like to first start by thanking the McMinnville Seroptimus Club. They came to us a few years ago and asked us to partner with them to offer some online safety for students and some of the hazards that can come from not monitoring online safety for children on social media, computers, and cell phones. So they helped us kind of spearhead a wellness and safety. We did this pre-COVID as a school district, but after COVID, we partnered with McMinnville Seroptimus to make this happen. So we appreciate that, and they've also supplied all the snacks for us here tonight. So a nice big thank you to McMinnville Seroptimus for all their partnering. We'd also like to thank the planning committee. Many of the people that are on this panel here tonight also joined us in planning for this event, so without them, we could not make this possible. I'd like to thank MCM Channel 11, our local McMinnville Media Channel 11. We greatly appreciate them because they are recording this tonight, and not only did they do that, they recorded some of the sessions that we have on our resources page on our website I'll talk about in just a minute. I'd like to thank our communications manager, Lori Fry. She's been instrumental in getting some communications out, kind of compiling all of this stuff, being the liaison to Channel 11, and so without her, we would not have made this happen. So tonight, if we go to the holistic safety slide here, what I want to mention tonight is that safety, school safety, has a number of different components to it. There's school climate, there's physical safety, there's mental health, there's cyber security. There's many different parts of it. Tonight we're focusing a little bit on like cybersecurity, how you can be safe online, but also about the mental health and the resources we have here in our community. And we developed the questions and the panel here tonight based on a thought exchange that we sent out to our parents in our community. So based on the responses we received from parents in our community, we designed this night to meet those needs. So we really appreciate the parents that participated. We send out thought exchanges, and those are only as good as the people who participate in them. So if we get more participation, we get more information that can help guide the work that we do. So that's where tonight's focus will be. We have a resource page on our website. It's on the main page of the website. And thanks to Channel 11, we were able to record Jennifer Linder from Linfield University, who did a presentation about smartphones and child resilience. I highly encourage everyone watching at home, everyone here tonight, go to the McMinnville School District webpage, and there are a number of videos. So Jen Linder from Linfield was gracious enough to record her presentation on smartphones and child resilience. Susan Inman recorded a presentation on internet safety and social media training, and that was sponsored by McMinnville Seroptimus, so how children need to be safe online so that they're safe physically as well. And then we had Caitlin Denning from Yamaha County's Health and Human Services. She recorded a presentation on vaping, so the dangers of vaping for students, and so that video is also on that webpage. I recorded some information about our standard response protocols, those emergency drills that is part of the holistic safety that I talked about a minute ago. And so I recorded some information there and also recorded a little bit of information about a community survey we did. We went around a couple years ago to the community to see what vape things are available in our stores in our community, what other maybe drugs and drug paraphernalia are available in our community. And so we don't list any names of businesses, but you can see the access of some of the things here in our community. So please visit that resource page because that's very important for you to look at all those videos. And again, if you have any questions, if you're here tonight, you can, we'll put up the slide for texting or emailing your questions. If you're here or at home, you can use that text and that email. Tonight, we're going to have a panel. We're going to ask them some questions, and then they're going to answer them for us. And so what I'd first like to do is have each of the panelists introduce themselves, their name, the organization they're representing, and a little bit about their organization. But before we do that, I'd like to turn it over to our moderator here tonight, Jason Hennis from Yamhill County Health and Human Services has gracefully donated his time to be here tonight, to be the moderator, to ask questions of our panel. So thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, so we're going to go through and do our introductions. I'll introduce myself, and then I think we're going to pass the mic around through the panelists as well. As Brian said, I work with the County Health and Human Services Department. My background was child mental health services. I did that for, going on close to 20 years now, even if I don't look like it, hopefully. I did some time in Los Angeles County working for a nonprofit down there doing counseling with children, and then came up to McMinnville about 10 years ago and have worked at the county since then. And now I am responsible for overseeing a number of our behavioral health programs, which include mental health services for all ages and addictions treatment services. We're going to have the panel introduce themselves, their organization, and a little bit about the services you provide. I guess we could just go around the table. Do you want to kick us off, Jack? I think that the other remote's going to pass around. Or, sorry, remote microphone. Can you reach that there, Melissa? And maybe I'll just say we'll go the other way. Okay, Melissa, you're first then.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Hendricks. I am the Mid-Oregon and Reach Out Oregon manager with Oregon Family Support Network. We are a nonprofit organization and the Oregon chapter of the National Federation for Families, and we offer peer support to parents and caregivers across Oregon who are navigating child-serving systems on behalf of their children and youth.
Hello, I'm Meredith Maxfield. I am a parent of 4 students in the McMinnville School District, and I am the head of a grassroots organization of parents called Resilient MAC. And I guess it's parents and community members. And we are working together and brainstorming how we can help children and teens in McMinnville have healthy tech habits. And it started by reading The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, and has kind of just become a bigger group where we have an email list of about 70 community members, and we have a Facebook group, and we partnered with the McMinnville School District to do the Raising Resilience events, and we're just trying to create a space where parents, the people with the boots on the ground, can come together.
Hi, my name is Isabella Norman, and I am the program manager for Youth Outreach YCAP, and we work a lot with teens and youth in crisis. We work with youth ages 11 to 21, and we have different programs, but our main ones are our transitional living program and our safe shelter program. And our safe shelter program is for youth ages 11 to 17 who are in crisis and need a place to stay, whether that be they're experiencing trouble at home or they are going through adverse experiences. It's a place where they can go to be safe with our host home providers, and we do a lot of work with the houseless community and just teens who need some extra support.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Camille LaRocca, and I am one of the program managers with Fostering Hope Initiative, which is a program through Catholic Community Services. We serve Marion, Polk, and Yamhill counties. Our main office is based in Salem, but the Fostering Hope Initiative program is comprised of community health workers and Oregon Health Plan assisters who do home visits in all 3 of those counties. We connect people to resources, anything from residential services to community health services to pregnancy services or parenting support services as well. We have pretty much no requirements for our program. It's any age, any income, and there's no insurance requirement as well, so come one, come all. And we help to have people feel stable in their households and their families so that we can have healthier communities. Thank you.
My name is Anthony Preston. I am the School Resource Officer for the McMinnville School District. Currently, I'm the only one. So I spend most of my time at the high school, but I'll go to the elementary schools and the middle schools as time allows. I provide law enforcement services for all the schools. I will sometimes sit in and do fun stuff in classes. I'll do presentations. I will do Battle of the Book stuff, which I got to do this year, which is a blast. Just all those kind of things just to provide a positive interaction between our youth and our community and law enforcement. Also, if you can't tell, I'm a little under the weather. I have a 1.5-year-old at home, so we are going through it.
Good evening. My name is Courtney Farua, and I serve as the Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment in McMinnville School District. This is my 17th year in the district. I was an elementary principal for 6 years before this position, and I was a teacher at Sue Buell and Cook Elementary back in the day. So I support lots of areas around health and wellness in my position, including our social and emotional learning initiatives, our partnerships with the parent groups and evening events, and also our crisis response team.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Leslie Gutierrez, and I'm the Mental Health Program Director at Lutheran Community Services. We have a variety of different programs, but under our Mental Health Department, we have 3 offices across Yamhill County in McMinnville, Newburgh, and Willamina. We offer counseling services to individuals across the lifespan, so from children, adolescents, and adults. We also offer skills training services, peer support services for folks who are needing additional support through the treatment process, and so we focus on keeping children safe and families together.
Hi, I'm Julie Seatman, and I am the Clinical Services Director and the lead forensic interviewer at Juliet's House, which is a child advocacy center serving Yamhill County. So we really have 3 main tasks at Juliet's House. One is responding to concerns of abuse, of any type of abuse, for children and doing forensic evaluations. We also have our own mental health treatment program where we're providing evidence-based trauma treatment for children who have experienced any type of trauma. And then we also have a prevention program. You may have seen or talked to some of the folks from our prevention program who are here tonight as well. And I'm here tonight, actually, even though I work on the forensic evaluation side of Juliet's House, where we're more interfacing with law enforcement and child protective services, but I'm really here tonight on the panel representing our mental health program. I feel like I would be remiss in not introducing my friend under the table. This is McDougal. He goes by Mac. He is the Juliet's House courthouse facility dog who does a tremendous amount of work as well, providing support and comfort to the kids who come through our program.
I was going to ask you to introduce him if you didn't.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bill McKilson. I'm the manager at Yamhill County Public Health. We do a lot of different things there, everything from nurse home visits to immunizations and reproductive health, but kind of in this context, our main job is like outreach, education, and prevention services for schools or community partners. We facilitate a lot of groups and committees and participate in other ones. And so actually I should shout out the great Marla too here at the door at our table.
Good evening. My name is Zoe Pearson, and I am the program manager for Yamhill County Family and Youth. And like Leslie's program, we provide mental health services for the children and youth in our community from really birth to school age. So as long as they're still connected with school or school systems, we will continue to provide those services. We provide a variety of services that include intensive outpatient, community outpatient, substance abuse treatment. We also provide services in our schools. In quite a few of our schools, we have contracts to be partners with the school district to help, kind of ease that any barriers for youth to access services. So it makes it easier for parents and families to have their children in services. We also have an office in Newburgh. We provide those peer services as well as skills training. We have, for youth who are engaged in our services, we partner with Catholic Community Services for respite for youth as well. I think I covered it all.
Thank you. So, hello everyone. My name is Leo Ceja Hidalgo. I'm the mental health specialist at the McMinnville High School. I have several roles, but the most probably meaning one is I provide mental health support, social, emotional, behavioral support to our students. I also help them with triage, finding other providers in the area, and not just around mental health, but also overall health. I provide consultation for many of our teams at the high school, as well as sometimes other schools, and I work closely with a lot of our community partners. I think I have worked with mostly everyone here in this panel, so that's me. Thank you.
My name's Jackie Terrell Cook, and I'm a family practice nurse practitioner for the last 20 plus years. About 17 of them have been involved intermittently with School-Based Health Center. About 5 years ago, the county asked us to sponsor a School-Based Health Center here in McMinnville, and so as of 2019, our clinic, Sunrise Family Clinic, sponsors, along with Family and Youth and Capital Dental and the school district. We have a school-based health clinic where we are able to share patients and provide physical health care, as well as work with, as I said, Capital Dental and Lutheran, or not Lutheran, we do work with Lutheran as well. As we were discussing, we said many referrals there for our kids, for our younger kids in particular, but Family and Youth to be able to share clients and give them really comprehensive care. And so the School-Based Health Center is open to all kids in the McMinnville School District. We do everything from strep tests, flu tests, all of those things, to send out labs. We'll do evaluations for other reasons that kids might be feeling down, like anemia or thyroid issues, or rule out some of those physical things. And we also do a lot of initial triage and really helping kids work on coping skills and other things as well, while getting them referred over to some of the resources that at times can be hard to get connected with. So it's a good kind of first stop and all-together care for our kids.
I think you can hang on to it probably, because I think we're going to start on this side of the table anyway. So we have a lot of depth in our resource panel here. We've got years of experience. We've got commitment to the community and serving youth, and a lot of us know each other and work together in professional capacities. And so we're excited to just be here tonight and share information with you, and hopefully answer some questions and just connect to resources that are existing in our community. As Brian said, the Thought Exchange was where we gathered a lot of these questions to present on tonight. And so I'm going to start with a question from the Thought Exchange and then sort of kick it to some of our panel members. So our first question that was submitted was, my child seems anxious a lot, but how do I know what's normal and when anxiety reaches a point of needing help? So Jackie, would you like to share first thoughts on that?
Well, thank you for letting me go first. So I would say, I think everybody has some degree of anxiety about something. And so it's a really good question, at what point do they need help? And so what I usually talk to parents about, is it impacting their life? So what are the things that we look for? And I made myself some little notes here too. And so it's like if they're worried a lot of the time, if your kid seems like they're always on edge, always concerned, just persistent worries or fears, avoidance behavior. So if they stop doing something because of worry, if they're changing their sleep patterns where they can't sleep, they're staying awake at night worrying about things, physical symptoms. I see a lot of kids with stomach aches, headaches. A lot of those things may be anxiety related. Do we need to rule out other things as well? Because sometimes there's a physical or a component, yes, but mood swings, irritability, that can be normal for adolescents in particular, but if it seems like it's sudden mood changes, that might be something to be concerned about. Changes in their grades. All sudden changes in their grades can be a good indication as well. Or if they're withdrawing from activities they normally enjoy, activities, sports, any of those things that they typically would do. Or if you're concerned about substance use, to help self-manage or self-medicate that anxiety.
All right, thank you. And Leo, from a school's perspective, I'm sure you get kids coming in there with sort of nervousness, anxiety. I got to be careful getting too close to the speaker, I think. At what point are you sort of saying, like, hey, I think this might be something that rises to a mental health where I'm going to get involved and work with them?
Well, Jackie pretty much already covered it all, so it'll be hard to kind of come up with something else. But I think a point where you can see this is when their level of engagement with their peers is being impacted. And again, paying attention to nutrition, too much sleep, not a lot of sleep, and then really paying attention to their mood. Is there a significant change in their mood? And are they not only talking as much or engaging as much with their peers, but also with people at home? So those are signs that I would say, okay, I think it's time to start talking to a professional. And even before going to the professional, talk to the source, do a check-in, and really there are some simple ways of doing that. And we can utilize statements such as, you know, I've noticed that lately there are some things that are a little bit different, or you seem a little bit different. Mm-hmm. What's going on? Can I help? Yeah. Now going to what professionals to talk to. Yes, counselors, social workers, mental health, awesome. But please, if your child has a primary care physician, that's probably a good first stop to check in on.
I appreciate you said talk to your child, because we shared a lot about the things you can observe from, you can observe these things, but sometimes it's like the personal connection of like, hey, something seems a little different. What's going on? All right, thanks, Leo. Okay, our next question. I think my child needs counseling outside of the school, but I don't know where to start looking for resources. I think we have a lot of people on the panel who could speak to this, and we could just keep kind of moving around the table here with Zoe.
Okay, so the question is, where do I turn? I mean, what are you doing? So first thing I would say, school counselors are a great place to start. Your child is school age. They're going to be able to identify some resources that are maybe not mental health counseling, but other resources that you might check in with. It's also looking at who are your natural supports that you can also turn to. You're going to hear about some of our supports that are at the table as well. What else would I say about that? And then it's, asking questions, going to your PCP. Then if it looks like things are beyond what you think you can manage as a parent, and your child is in a place where you feel like you need some help, then it's looking at, we've got Lutheran, we've got Family and Youth, you've got some private practitioners out there. There are a lot of really good therapists in the community. I would say a lot of those we've trained at Family and Youth who are in our community. So there are some good people out there that you can just call and ask questions as well. And I do emphasize natural supports because that is important to your family, culture and values, what will help you and your family as you navigate whatever the situation your child is experiencing. But also, as Leo said, checking in with your child, because sometimes it's just you that they need. They want to hear from you. They want to know that you are seeing them, hearing them, and responding to them. So I don't have like this magic wand for you. We are just a lot of really good resources out here to help you navigate. Did I answer all of the question, Jason?
Yeah, I think you covered it.
Okay.
And if you want to, or if you want to reach it over to Julie, maybe I think she can get it from there. I was just thinking, one of the things we hear a lot from parents when they come into services with us, or we do surveys, is like, how did you hear about us? And it was another parent or a friend that they heard from. So it's like it's the community connections. So being aware of the resources, even if you don't need it, because someone else might be looking, and often people are going to turn to someone they know first, as a family, friend, social supports, before they start to just go through the phone book or the internet and calling the professionals. So, Julie.
Yeah, and there's not much, I don't think, that I can add to what Zoe had to say about that. I think utilizing those informal support networks is a really important option, because you may not feel ready to reach out to a professional option, but looking at, who do I know who maybe has gone through something similar, who might be able to lend some support, or have some ideas for how I might get the support that I need to kind of navigate this particular situation. Again, Family and Youth and Lutheran, Juliet's House, we also have a mental health program, and if we're not, I think all of the programs, if we're not able to provide those services directly, we have case managers who are more than happy to help families navigate the community. We all have relationships with each other and know the services that all of the other agencies provide, and are more than happy to help families navigate that. So I think wherever you feel most comfortable starting, I think you will end up where you probably need to be.
Thank you, Julie. Leslie, did you want to add anything for Lutheran?
I feel like most of that was covered. I just want to stress the importance of checking in, as most of the panelists have said already. Having an open and safe environment to communicate with your child is essential to knowing what's going on and what kind of support or resources would be helpful to them.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to move us on to the next question, and we're going to pivot a little bit to cell phones. The question was, what can we do to get our kids off their phones and engage with others face-to-face? I got a phone in each pocket, and I got 2 little kids at home, and every time I'm looking at my phone, there's a little face next to me trying to see what I'm looking at. So what do we do about that? I was going to start with Meredith on this one.
Well, I don't want to take all night. I have lots of ideas. I don't know if there's a magic solution that works for all families or all kids. I do want to clarify, it's always important to people to know that my family is not cell phone free or screen free. Sometimes people just assume that I'm anti cell phones, but that's not true. So I guess I would recommend starting with educating yourself on the latest research. The library just got a grant to get over 150 copies of The Anxious Generation, and they would like people can come and pick them up and then pass them on, and they hope that that will spark a conversation in our community that we've just barely started, and they want more people to have access to that information. Also, Jennifer Linder's presentation that is now on the school district's website is shorter than the Anxious Generation book, but it starts with the importance of how to increase resilience in our kids and how cell phones and social media affect that. And the school district is actually going to put together a little discussion kit, and they're going to have it on their website because they hope that parents will come together and watch it either alone or together and then discuss it. Because really, I'll tell you that in our household, we have cell phone free spaces. We don't allow cell phones in our playroom in our basement, and we don't allow them in our kids' bedrooms. Our kids don't have cell phones yet, but if their friends come over, we make sure that they understand our rules. Also, we have cell phone free times. We don't allow cell phones at our dinner table. But I think a lot of it comes down to getting together with the people that your kids are interacting with and making sure you're kind of all on the same page and picking each other's brain. So those discussions, both formally and informally, are critical. the anxious generation really emphasizes how important face-to-face interactions are. And so I think it's okay as adults and parents to put limits on our kids. And you can say, no, you don't need to go to the park with a cell phone. And I think that can be scary once you've given your kid a privilege to then take it away. But it's okay to pivot, and I think it's okay to brainstorm with them. I have a friend who they had their teenager read The Anxious Generation, and then they brainstormed together how to apply it in their house, because it has a lot of information, and not all of it will apply to all of us.
Great, thank you. Courtney, did you want to share a little bit about what the school's doing around this with policies?
Sure. We have been engaging in this conversation quite a bit, and noticing how kids are playing differently, how they're coming into kindergarten differently, having played more on technology than kind of the free-range childhood experience that we would have seen maybe 10 to 15 years ago. All of our schools have phone policies and practices, and we have made some adjustments to that this year at the high school. But at elementary and mid-level, it is away for the day, meaning that students may have cell phones that they're bringing from home, but they are put away in backpacks and not accessible during the student day. At high school, we are prioritizing instruction, and so cell phones are put away during the 90-minute periods, and the high school has put out some their little folder things that the cell phones fit in, and so all of the classrooms that needed those have them. You might have noticed in the media and different places that there are different products that are being used. I had a friend that went to a concert last weekend, and at the concert they were asked to put their phones in these containers that had magnets that locked, and so as more of those products become available, those will be things that we will be exploring as well.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to come back over to this side of the table. Zoe, did you want to chime in there with? Yeah.
It's all great information that they're sharing, and I think it's really important to say we can't get away from technology, and we get that, but we have to carve out that time away from it, because our world will just, that will just be what it is. But what I would add is that there are resources that I believe you all have put on the resource page about a social media family plan. I think that's a good place to start. And you start that younger, and it goes better, because then there's that expectation as they grow up. But it's a joint conversation about, these are my values. And it's really important as a family that you identify what your values are so that you can communicate that clearly with your children. And they will push and say, that's not going to be my value, but that's okay. And you continue to have those conversations with them about why this is important to you. And as they grow, they can change their values as well. But for right now, this is what our family rules are. But having a social media plan is really important. There's just so much out there in social media that can be harmful for kids. And so you just have that conversation about what is okay to share, but also have that conversation about, what do you think about so-and-so and what they've shared? And you get your child's point of view. And then you're not telling them, don't do that. You're hearing from them about what they think, and you help them develop their thoughts and problem solve around it. And so you're including them in that decision-making process. And again, it looks different at each developmental stage, but it is important to even do that with the littles, getting their point of view too. I think that's what I would add.
Okay, I think that's a good segue. Jackie, did you want to mention maybe for early childhood and screen time and developmental things?
Sure. I know that what I see in the office and with parents, and I would say, when I go to the office as well, to the doctor's office, and my kids will get screens as well so that they will hang out. And I have an 8-year-old and a 16-year-old. So I know what's in the office is not always, but sometimes I have parents who tell me that their kids really have no screen time limits, even 2-year-olds that are probably more comfortable on a cell phone than I am. But if you look at the research on the damage that this does to kids, and also the development of ADHD, there's a lot of information out there. And so I would agree, like looking at all of those pieces, I think the anxious generation talks about it a lot. And I love Zoe's, like, my favorite thing is, it's important to me that these things happen, and here's the reasons why. And so I do involve my own kids in our discussion around like what they watch and why. And so kids under 18 months should have 0 screen time. After that, it's minimal, like quality screen time. I know what they want to watch is not always what they should be watching, and I tell my kids it's junk food for the brain, just like, you know, junk food that you eat. And so it's finding things that are going to have a learning component in that time that you do limit it. And then also, it's one of the reasons why I really encourage parents to follow the American Academy of Pediatrics. They have some really great guidelines, but also just the well child checks, because I know I talk to my parents that are bringing their kids in at each of their well child checks about screen time, as well as activity and food and exercise and all of those pieces. And so they're hearing it then from, you know, an authority source as well as from the parents, and we want to back you parents up in saying that. And so I really encourage parents to take their kids in for their preventative visits, because your primary care is going to be backing you up on that piece too. So it's not just, oh, this is my rule and, well, everybody else does this. And even as they get older too, just making sure that you're having those discussions. I also wanted to mention one of my favorite resources as a parent is, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Common Sense Media, but they have ratings for kids, and you can look at it and go, is this appropriate for my kids, if you haven't seen it or read it, or video games. And so it's a really great resource for parents.
All right. Our next question from the Thought Exchange was, in some ways similar, but what can a parent do to recognize a mental health issue? And if they do recognize a problem, what's the best way to start addressing it? Melissa, do you want to speak on behalf of parents? The parent perspective in the room.
I would love to. So at Oregon Family Support Network, we are parents who have navigated or are navigating systems on behalf of our children and youth. And we come into this work because we've been there and we get it. And we walk alongside other parents and caregivers who are navigating on behalf of their own children and youth. One of the things in my experience, I remember my son was very young. I started navigating systems on behalf of my son in 2005. And I remember he was only 5 at the time, and I was like, something just does not feel right. Didn't know what it was. And I was like, I don't even know where to start. I don't know what's out there. I have no clue. My support system was very, very limited, natural supports, and so I was like, I don't even know what to do. At Oregon Family Support Network, and I wish this existed back then, we have a parent support warm line called Reach Out Oregon. That is a place where any parent or caregiver in Oregon can call for support. It is absolutely free. There are no system involvement or insurance requirements. That would be a fantastic place to start if you're like, I think something's going on and I'm just not even sure what the first step is. When you call, you'll get connected to a family support specialist who is also a parent with similar experience. And then, it might look like a couple of phone calls to get some information. It could also look like maybe you're needing some short-term support, just navigating, getting the ball rolling on behalf of your child. And we offer community-based family support, and that it's directed by the parent. Whatever feels most helpful for them is the support we offer. And the community-based is offered through the Reach Out Oregon team, and that also is a support that is free to all parents and caregivers in Oregon.
All right. I got Leo on this one. So I'll read the question again. How can parents recognize a mental health issue, and if we do recognize a problem, what's the best way to start addressing it?
Thanks, Jason. So I think we kind of covered a little bit of that on the previous question. Paying attention to your child's functioning, and that would mean paying attention to how they're functioning at home, how they're socializing with their friends, how they're functioning academically. And if you see abrupt changes or significant changes, then I think those might be some indicators that something is not going as well as it should be, or as in a typical growth manner. How to approach the person, the child? Well, I think, how do you approach your child about any other issues? How do you establish that communication? How do you start a conversation with your child? And many times, it doesn't even take a lot of words. Depending on the age of the child, if we're talking an adolescent, sometimes you might just have to invite that person for, I don't know, fast food or whatever food you like, or Dutch Bros or whatever drink. And, then just kind of start that way. Start connecting, even without words. Now, when it comes to digging into the issue or exploring the issue, again, with adolescents, it's a bit different. With younger children, you can start by playing games and seeing their interest, talking about their day. How was your day? And a lot of them will be like, it was just a school day. It was boring. Huh, what was boring about it? Well, I didn't get to hang out with my friends. And if you know that your child has been hanging out with friends quite often and that's a change, then that's something that we need to kind of explore a little farther. With adolescents, I think one of the ways in which I would say we can start with some conversations that are not so direct, it's, talk about future plans. Talk about what's exciting about school, what's important. Check the level of interest on the things that they used to have interest in. Now, it's important to keep in mind the developmental differences because we will have children transitioning from early childhood, mid-childhood to adolescence, and it would be appropriate for someone that, for example, used to love playing with Legos, even up to middle school, to now be interested in other things. But when we need to be a little bit worried is when they have no interest on other things, when they're not filling in those spaces with proactive or healthy avenues.
All right, thank you. Okay, next question from the Thought Exchange was, many of our kids are stressed, anxious, and depressed, but besides counseling, what can parents do to support them? So I wonder if we could talk about some of the other just activities or supports in the community besides the sort of mental health counseling. Meredith, did you have some ideas on that?
So besides counseling, what do you do if you think your child has is having some mental health issues? I guess my first thought when I hear that is, research is showing there's a correlation between screen use, social media, cell phones, and mental health issues. And so I would first reflect on my own cell phone and social media use and how I'm modeling for my children what's appropriate and what's not, and then spend time with them analyzing what their screen use is like. Jennifer Linder shared in her presentation that in 2019, research said that 70% of kids were going to bed with their cell phone in their bed. And if we know that sleep deprivation affects mental health, then clearly that's a place to start. That's a low-hanging fruit, maybe no cell phone in the bed. But you asked also about other things around the community. Part of our group, we actually are hoping to gather the community in creating more spaces for our kids to connect face-to-face. The library has amazing programs, and so it's getting on their website. The rec center has great programs. I'm actually working on hopefully building a new improved rec center because we want better programs for our youth, and it connects this connects to that for me. I'm working on that because I want my children to have places to go, because we all want them off their screens, but if there's no other options, if we take the cell phone away and just say, be happy, be entertained, but we haven't modeled how to do that, we need to find sports and activities and clubs. The middle school, my son has amazing club opportunities that aren't athletics, and that is awesome. So exploring all of those in our community, and we hope that we can just increase that and publicize it more. It'd be great if there was a place where you could go if your kid isn't into athletics and find, all the different options. And so we've been working on that with the school district, trying to kind of compile all of that so that it's easier for parents. If they recognize an issue, they can say, well, my kid is into anime and Dungeons and Dragons. What's there for them? And so then you can find those more obscure hobbies and hopefully help your kid develop friendships and relationships around those.
Thank you. And Bella, can you tell us a little bit about what the experience might be for a youth coming into one of the drop-in centers?
Yeah, I was going to say, speaking of Dungeons and Dragons, that is very prominent at our centers. We actually have a Dungeons and Dragons group that meets every Wednesday, and it's become so popular that we now have 2 campaigns, and they can run up to 2.5, 3 hours, depending on how long we let it go. And it's a really great opportunity for youth who might not feel like they fit into mainstream things like sports or other things at school to come together and really engage in a place that is fun and creative. I have a lot of youth that are writers and artists, and these are things that I have learned just from talking with them for short periods of time. And the outreach centers, our Newburgh one especially, which is our biggest one, and our McMinnville one too, they have the space to be creative and do those things and engage with peers and youth there that actually want to do those things. So for our Dungeons and Dragons group, we have different DMs, because that's what they're called, and they have different styles of campaigns, and they're based off of mutual and common activities like video games like League of Legends is what our current campaign is based off of, and I know nothing about a lot of those things, but I've learned so much from talking just with these kids every single day that I myself have gotten into them, and it's just a place where creativity can blossom. And I have a lot of kids coming into the drop-ins and saying, this is the one place that I can escape from school, from my house, and I can just be myself, even if it's for a couple of hours. And so kind of going into that more, what parents can do aside from counseling is being that safe space at home as well. I have a lot of kids that come in and they're saying, hey, I don't know how to talk to my mom about this. I don't know what to say. You're like one of the only people that are gonna get it. And the only reason is because sometimes they feel like they can't. And so the more honest and open you are as a parent about your shortcomings, your mental health struggles, creating that really open and honest communication is the way to establish that safe place for them and be that starting point. Yeah.
Thank you. I know enough about Dungeons and Dragons to know that DM is Dungeon Master, but that's about it. Okay, I'm going to move us to a next question here. Suicide prevention has been a big topic in our community. What is the district doing, and how can parents help with that? I'll start with Courtney, and then we'll do Bill after that.
This has been a really important topic to us, and there are lots of ways that we are addressing this. As a district, we have a suicide prevention plan that's multifaceted, and it includes really strong social emotional learning support at all levels. So to do that preventative, helping our kids feel connected and give them the language for managing their emotions and seeking help and having friendships and having good supports is really important. We also have different tiered levels of support within our buildings. We've got really amazing school counselors that have all partnered regionally for trainings. Our administrators are also participating in that as well. And, we are working through different layers of ensuring that our students who are at risk have are well connected within our buildings and are known and have regular points of contact with our staff members. One of the really exciting new programs that we are offering at the high school right now is called Sources of Strength. And it is a class that students are taking. And in the class, they learn about suicide prevention and health and wellness of students. And then each month, those students that are in the course put on a campaign for their peers, and they become kind of peer mentors and models of normalizing talking about getting help and being a part of a community and surfacing a lot of these important topics. So this has been something that is really near and dear to our heart. We're putting a lot of energy and attention to it in order to do right by our students in this way.
Yeah, thank you. And can we get Mike DeBill?
Yeah, so Sources of Strength, like Courtney mentioned, is something we've been trying to launch in different districts for a while now, and we're excited that Courtney took us up on the offer to help. We have 2, if not more, 3 staff at our team who are trained to like facilitate and train other trainers to do it. And like Courtney said, over time the program becomes peer-led, which is the goal. It's much better than me or my team coming in to do a suicide prevention training for kids. They like to hear it from their peers, and they have these cool campaigns that are pre-built, and it's a lift. So it's a big deal that Courtney and the team in McMinnville are taking it on because it's hard work to get it organized. But over time, it can kind of self-sustain itself, and so that's something we're supporting in this district and other ones. But we offer other things like brief suicide prevention trainings like QPR, you might have heard of, which is question, persuade, refer. It's kind of like CPR, but for suicide intervention. We've got staff trained in mental health first aid, which is kind of a longer version of QPR and a little more detailed. These are, again, all for like community members or even from kids to adults to staff. They've got all kinds of different versions of it. So we offer trainings like that for folks in education, but we also support programs for younger kids too. Prevention is kind of, we go as upstream as we can, and social emotional learning for younger kids is really important too. So by partnering with some districts and the CCO to support things like the good behavior game and start those SEL skills really young is something we're advocating for too. And then kind of a newer program, I guess it's been a little while now, but was offering gun cases and safe storage options for folks for free. That we have just a form on our website. If you want a lockbox for a handgun or a rifle case or a cable lock, we just have a quick form on our website that anybody can access, and you can get it for free if we have them on hand. I know Jason keeps them at his office too, and they're kind of all over at different HHS buildings. So kind of access to lethal means is an important piece of suicide prevention. And so we just keep writing for more grants to get more cases and make sure we keep having them because they fly out and the community needs them and uses them. So quick plug, if anybody needs one, check out our website.
Can I add one thing?
Sure.
If I could add just one more thing about Sources of Strength, that I am a fan of Sources of Strength. I've been trying to promote it for a long time in our community. But what I would also add is that we know that schools have their own culture, and there are different kinds of kids within every school district. And so what Sources of Strength does is pulls from every peer group that's out there, whether it's the academic, nerdy kind of kid or to the outcast. It pulls every population together. And what I like about the youth who are on the outside is if you get their buy-in, they're going to be pulling in their peers too. So that's the goal, is that you're getting representation from across the school, so it's not just your, I'm going to do this for college kind of kid. This is important, and I want my peers to be safe, and I have a voice, and I can bring it forward. So I really do feel like this is a great opportunity for the district to take on, and I truly appreciate them doing that.
Okay, we're going to move to a question on just general school safety. It says, I worry that my child is not safe at school. How do parents know what safety practices are being followed? I think this is a good one for you, Anthony. I feel safer with you here in the room.
So yeah, I would say that from a police department perspective, because I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, I also work for the McMinnville Police Department, but I work really closely with all of our guys, all of our patrol officers, detectives, to make sure that we get into the schools as much as we can. Typically that's going to be during breaks, that's going to be during, off time, so that we can make sure that they're familiar with the schools, because in our job, we have to think about worst case scenario. And so I want them to know exactly where they're going and exactly what to do. I can't tell you, I've had some guys say, oh, I've already been in that school. I was like, oh, when was the last time you were in there? Well, last year. I was like, I'm in there in the schools every single day, and I still sometimes have to figure out where I'm going. So some of our schools are very, very confusing in that way, but we do a lot of training just to make sure we're familiarized there with ourselves with that. We make sure that we're working as groups with different agencies, Yamhill County, Carlton, Yamhill. We work with OSP just to make sure that we have training, because in a big incident, we're all going to show up. And anytime we have something like happening at a school, I think you've maybe already seen, everybody's going to come from every single place, and we want to make sure that we're all on the same page. On the day-to-day stuff, we have our buildings are locked down, and there should be a single point of entry, and we make sure that if we see kids that are not following those rules and they're letting their friends in from a side door, things like that, that we try to have conversations with them. And sometimes that's a staff member, and sometimes it's like, hey, no, you need to go talk to the SRO. I think in school, nobody want to get called down to the principal's office. I think sometimes getting called down to the school resource officer's office is a little more scary. I try not to scare kids, but we definitely have conversations. But on that same token, I've had kids who've been like, hey, I just wanted to call you and let you know that there's somebody standing at the back door and they're trying to get in. I didn't let them in. And I make sure to take my time to thank them for not letting them in and let them know they did the right thing, because it's also important for us to make sure that our kids are also getting the praise when they do the right things. I would say that we have a lot of stuff that we use to ensure the safety of our students, whether that's cameras. I think our communication from the police department to the school district is phenomenal. I think that sometimes our district safety manager, Martha, probably sees my name on her phone. It's like, oh man, why is Anthony calling me? That's why we have blocked numbers now. No, but we talk a lot, and we go through a lot of trainings together and make sure that we're all on the same page. And we work basically from the top down, from the superintendent level, from the chief level, all the way down to our lowest level patrol officer. And we make sure that we're all on the same page and we all have the same expectation that when we show up to a school, we know what we're coming to do, and that's to keep our kids safe.
Courtney, you want to add anything for the school?
I would just add that if a parent is feeling worried or unsafe, I really just encourage them to foster a relationship with the administrator in their building, because understanding the school's protocols and those types of things under the leadership of Superintendent Brockett and Brian Crane, there have been incredible processes put in place to make it more clear and more forward-facing for our families about what would happen in an emergency and all of the different types of scenarios. And so sometimes just knowledge helps alleviate some of that anxiety, and then see something, say something. If there is an issue or something that is not being followed, the administrators want to know that, so that they can respond and keep our school safe. It's the most important thing that we do.
We're going to transition a little bit and talk about some bullying is another topic that came up through the Thought Exchange. We have a couple questions on that here. The first is, bullying seems to get a lot of attention these days, and it seems to be described differently than when I was in school. How do you describe bullying exactly, and what can we do to keep our children from being bullied or being the bully? Stick with you, Courtney, since you got the mic.
Sure. So we do have school board policy that is available on our website that outlines specifically the definition of bullying and the process that is followed during that. I did take some notes around it just to give you some of the highlights, but bullying is behavior that substantially interferes with education. It needs to have a nexus to school, so it either is happening at school or is brought to school in some way. It causes harm or causes fear of harm and creates a persistent hostile environment. So there's an element of, it's not just one mean moment, it's something that's causing kind of a pervasive experience. Our administrators are very well versed in investigating behavior issues within students and students that they're experiencing. They will go through an investigation around bullying that is in line with our policy, and then it will be put into writing what the findings are for that and what the safety supports will be. There are a lot of different, in schools, and I was an elementary principal, we expect kids to make mistakes and we expect kids to have conflict. We also expect our schools to be safe places where all kids can thrive. And so sometimes what can happen is if a student is having kind of a maladaptive way of interacting with others, that they might get some direct teaching from counseling staff or other staff to build the skill that's missing. Oftentimes that will happen privately and won't be known by the parent who might be experiencing it on the other end. But one of the things that we also try to do is to put in kind of a safety plan for the student who is experiencing this. And that can identify who's a trusted adult at recess that you could go to and touch base with if you're not feeling safe. Sometimes we have students who are separated in zones at recess. So on, this time you're going to play on this side, and, the student who you're experiencing conflict with is going to be in a different location. At mid-level in high school, that can be the same kind of scenarios for passing periods or unstructured times like lunch and things like that. But our goal is to resolve the conflict and make sure that we have a plan in place that kids can feel safe at school.
Thank you. Leo, you want to add on this one? And then, and we might even segue into the next one because it talks about the consequences as well. So I'll read the question and then we can kind of combine the answers here if you need to. There doesn't seem to be consequences for bullying. What happens when a bully is reported, and how do we know what the issues are being addressed? So you could touch on a little bit of either of those questions, and then if Courtney wants to talk about consequences too.
All right, I think I'm going to go back to the first question. And one of the things that I have seen in how bullying is described from back when I was in school or when I was younger to now, a lot of times, unfortunately, there seems to be a little bit of glorification because we used to handle it face-to-face, fist-to-fist, or, whatever. And so that carries a little bit an unwanted message that was okay, this is not as bad. Now, what I have seen more taking place is bullying being done via social media, technology, and it's tough, and one of the things that I would say is that a lot of times students don't understand the impact that their behaviors have on other students genuinely, and so it does take a little bit of education, and it does take a little bit of humility from adults modeling what behavior we want to see. But if we really talk in the technical terms, we look at a differential of power, unwanted behavior, and perspective is important. Because if the student that is feeling like he, she, or they are being bullied, we need to validate those feelings and then follow with our investigation. Now, a lot of times there will be perception or a feeling that the school is not doing anything about it. But in my experience, when bullying incidents have been reported, administrators follow through, There is a process, and I know that everybody involved would like to know what's happening to both parties or both sides, and we do have to be mindful of the loss of privacy that education is ruled by. And what we can tell you is that we are taking steps to address the issue. Courtney,
I'm going to steal the microphone one more time. Have I said that I'm a fan of sources of strength? If you haven't heard that, I just want to say that again. So in our world, we talk about evidence-based programs, things that make a difference. And Sources of Strength is an evidence-based program that helps to eliminate bullying in school. It also is an evidence-based program that eliminates sexual harassment in school. It is also an evidence-based I'm not sure if it's evidence-based yet. I think this research is there on substance use. So it is a very important program that I think will help address some of these things. And starting at one level right now, but it is an evidence-based program to help eliminate that, because peers have connections with trusted adults and with each other. Sorry, I stole the mic.
I think both of them did an excellent job. I think that the school policies and school handbooks outline consequences for behavior, and those processes are followed in these types of situations. We also talk about restorative practices and building skills, and so in addition to consequences, we want to teach the lagging skill that is causing the student to have that issue. Privacy is really important. So both students have a right to privacy, and we can communicate with families about the proactive safety plan for the student who was experiencing the negative interaction, but we will not be able to tell specifically the consequence that happened to the other student. And I know that that is challenging, when your child has experienced something like that. What we can typically do in those situations is tell you in general, this is what would happen. But the student's right to privacy prevents details to be shared, which we can all appreciate from our own parenting perspectives as well.
Thank you. Okay, we had another question, and we've talked a little bit about supports for parents, but I don't want to ignore any of the questions we had. So what supports are available for parents who have children experiencing mental or behavioral health challenges? And Camille, I think you had something that you could share on that one for us.
I've been over here taking notes the whole time as a mom to a toddler. I'm like, this is going to be important in the future. But I did want to give a shout out to our new Family Connections groups. We have partnered with the Yamhill Early Learning Hub with the CCO to bring what we're calling Family Connections groups to Yamhill County. We do have them in each of the counties that we serve. And these are free opportunities for parents of children of any age to come with or without their children and meet other parents that exist in the community, learn about resources. So each time we meet, we will bring maybe some pamphlets for some resources. Maybe we will have one of our lovely community partners come and talk to the parents about a resource that exists in the community. We try to bring crafts for the families to do together with their kids. Maybe we'll read a storybook if we have more younger children there at the time. But it's really just an opportunity to share food. We do provide a free meal for them. We raffle off a free gift card as well to like Target or Walmart or something like that. So there's lots of incentives to go. Right now it is the second Wednesday of each month from 6 to 7 p.m. at the McMinnville Public Library. We just started them in January, so we're still trying to see, time frame and such of what works for parents. And I know our goal is to also expand into the West Valley to really to give this opportunity to more low-income families or to families that are in different areas that might not have resources like that readily available. You can learn about these things just by contacting Fostering Hope Initiative or the Early Learning Hub. We do post it on our social media as well, or you can go to the Mid-Valley Parenting website and register. But I encourage you guys to let the families that you work with know, to share it with families that are in our community, and just let them know that group exists. And then one other thing I will shout out just in general about Fostering Hope Initiative services is we have community health workers who do have a lot of lived experience. So we have CHWs that live in each of the counties that we serve. They have a lot of lived experience either as parents or maybe people who have gone through substance use disorders or who have had mental health challenges, but basically people who have actually accessed the resources that we are connecting the families with, which we find to be very important and very valuable to the receptivity to these resources when we were talking to the families that we serve about them. As well, we also are all a little bit unique in the fact that all of our community health workers are native fluent Spanish speakers. So that's just kind of something to keep in mind when you're referring families to our services, that we do a lot of those bilingual services and try to reach out a lot to the Latinx community. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to move us along a little bit, and we had a question that was really about how do we help peers make our youth make peer connections and form groups around that. So the question was, there are many kids going through the same things, such as grief or drug use, divorced parents, parents incarcerated, etc. Is there a way to form groups so kids can interact with peers going through similar issues? I'm going to kind of put this out to the panel and see if there's people who want to make any suggestions about where there's some of these opportunities that are either organic or maybe more formal for teens, adolescents to connect with peers around maybe a common need or life experience.
I'll go really quick.
Yeah, Bella.
So not only do we have Dungeons and Dragons, we also play a lot of a card game called Magic the Gathering. And it's really fun. But the reason that I'm leading with that is because when you have kids going through things like grief and divorced parents, youth outreach is one of the areas where they congregate because there are people that are going through very similar struggles. And so what starts out to be like a fun-based group or activity quickly turns into shared and deep conversations, which then break out into prevention groups that are peer-led and that are kind of facilitated by staff, of course, for supervision, but led and invigorated by the youth that are actively experiencing them. And so the conversations that come from these groups or come from these kind of connections are really groundbreaking for a lot of these kids, because isolation is a really big thing in our community and feeling like they're alone, especially if they're being bullied at school. When they come to a feast night on a Wednesday to hang out with their friends, to play Dungeons and Dragons and to go into that 3.5-hour campaign, they're talking about more than just the game. And so creating peer prevention groups, we've done things for addiction before, for youth that are experiencing things like body dysmorphia or like gender identity issues, LGBTQIA related things. And it's really just an organic way to develop those groups naturally and then kind of let the youth lead with their voice in those areas.
Thank you. So kind of moving around the table here, Juliet's house, anything on that? Julie? I should be clear, Juliet's house is not your house, Julie.
No, and I do, kids ask me that all the time, like, do you live here? And while there are times that I feel like I live there, I don't actually live there. Unfortunately, right now, Juliet's house is not offering these types of groups, so I grabbed the microphone, even though I can't, we are not currently offering these types of groups, but I do want to add to what Bella is saying, because I think what the really important thing about these types of support groups and mental health groups for teens is that they are an incredibly important form of support for adolescents, because adolescents, where they're looking for support, really is from each other. And I think there's incredible value in building these types of supports. And I think there's so much that these types of support groups can do for adolescents in terms of reducing those feelings of isolation. Like really everything that Bella said, it was kind of yes, 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 and normalizing those experiences. But I think when we have opportunities to then take that group and help them build those coping skills and encourage that open communication, and it's reducing stigma around mental health and helping teens express themselves is so important. So when we have opportunities to do that, I think we really need to find them where they are in an organic location like Yo, and then other, we all have opportunities, whether that's at Juliet's house or other youth serving organizations to create those and enhance those opportunities for youth. So I look forward to the time when we can do that, because mostly we're seeing kids who have experienced trauma and have an opportunity to bring those youth together and do something similar. So I'm glad that you're doing that, and look forward to also being an organization in the future that is also doing that.
Keep moving around the table here. Leo, Zoe's going to grab it again. No?
Nope, I passed on it.
I think I listened to a lot of materials from different parts of the world, and the message that keeps coming across from other cultures is that our youth are everyone's responsibility, and so we don't have to do this alone, and it doesn't have to all be done by professionals. And lately, since I've been doing more hands-on, more direct work with youth, a lot of them have informed me that, faith organizations, churches, spiritual places are also places that can provide some support, and they can do it in a group manner. Now, that is up to each parent and what they want to do with that, or how they want to approach it. But hearing it from youth, they have expressed it over and over. When I don't find the support here, or aside from the support that I find in this place or other places, youth groups have provided us, youth, with that support that is structured, safe, and we create connections. And most of them have identified at least one adult in those places that is a safe person. Again, it can be spiritual or not spiritual, but we are all responsible for the well-being of our youth.
All right. We're going to get into, I think, the last question we had, and then we had a couple that came in tonight from the audience. So I feel our LGBTQ, I'll say plus students need extra support in stress management or mental health. What can we do to help? So I think this is, similar, like we're talking about common experiences in our youth and forming groups around that, but I wonder, do we want to talk about like professional services that might, like professional supports in addition to, because we've talked a lot about some of the other groups and clubs and things like that, gatherings, Magic the Gatherings. I'll put Leo, do you want to talk about
sure
school clubs and things that might be available?
At the high school, and no, I'm not checking my social media, I was actually communicating with my colleagues, and they actually offer the Gender Sexuality Alliance, and it meets once a week for youth that identify in that community, and they get to do supportive, fun activities, and it's open to not just members of that population, but others that want to support as well.
So if the youth are engaged in services, because there's enough going on that they need to be in services, we have some therapists that's kind of their game, that they are really, they have that skill set for working with that population. That's the population that they want to support. So there are specified therapists that could be a resource if they're engaged in services with us. Anyone else want to add?
Anyone else? Okay. Okay.
So, like you were saying, there's a lot of things in clubs and schools that are really great, and I'm going to sound like a broken record again, but common places that are safe and a community, like just creating general communities and safe spaces for youth in general, but also youth of that community is really important. We have a lot of youth that attend our locations that are a part of that community. We service the entire population, but because we are a safe place for people to come, we have a lot of people that are able to express themselves safely. And so we have the Dungeons and Dragons group and the Magic the Gathering, but really it's about engaging in other youth that are experiencing crisis related to the community, right? So that involves things like people undergoing gender dysphoria or gender identity or change, and a lot of things that might not be readily talked about by other services or by professionals. They're able to discuss actively in the center, and then they're able to form that kind of support for themselves and with our staff. And I'm not saying that can't be done in the school district or other areas, but when it's coming from your friends and people that know you, it's validating on a whole different plane. And so really engaging in common activities that they congregate towards is really where we're seeing a lot of that extra support and stress management, because it kind of becomes, you know, you're able to focus on something else, right? Like you're going through these issues and you're experiencing these adverse experiences, but you're able to share thoughts and ideas. Like I went to the high school, we have been doing outreach at the McMinnville High School a lot recently, and one of our favorite clubs is the Poetry Club. And I have never been to a place that has such, there's really no boundaries, right? Like, of course there's boundaries, but they talk about things like self-harm and suicide and, you know, sexual assault and all these other things that, you know, when I was going to school were more taboo, but they're being facilitated in a way that the youth want to share. And I went to a slam poetry session and it was really cool, and people actually went, and it was one of the best things that I've ever been to recently working in this field, and it's because we're actually talking about those things now. So.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to try to get us out of here at 7:30.
Sorry.
Okay.
I wanted to back up and just add a little more information around the question, what supports are available to parents. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what we offer here in Yamhill County. We have two wraparound family partners. We have, they're in the back, Hope Andrews and Ken Cinnamon. And they offer support to parents and caregivers who are navigating the wraparound process with their children and youth. And what that looks like is they partner with those parents through the entire process as long as the parent would like them there. The support is led by the parent, and when I emphasize that, because the support we offer is individualized. No two families are the same. What worked for my family may not work for yours. And so we offer support that is going to be the most meaningful for the family, and they are the ones that know what that is. The other thing we offer here is twice a month. It's called Parents Night Out Respite. It's the first and third Tuesday of each month here in McMinnville. It is a time where parents can come, they bring their children, and we will spend time doing activities, and the parents get a little break for a couple of hours. Again, something I wish existed when my kids were younger. You know, you can go shopping, go to dinner. I would have gone home and taken a nap. But we offer that as just, you know, what is a little piece we can do to support a need that is identified. It's really across the state. But that is something that we do offer currently in Yamhill County. And Hope and Ken have lots of information back there.
All right, plug for Hope and Ken. Okay, I have two questions that came in from tonight and wanted to make sure that we acknowledge those. And I think in some ways we've already covered them, but I'm going to throw them out for the panel, and you tell me actually that my answer fits that too, or I'd like to say some more on it. The first one is specific to Officer Preston. So it says, question for Officer Preston, the resource officer. What does he currently view as our biggest safety risk for our students, and how can the district and the community provide support for student safety? I know we talked about like the locked, or the security of the locked, closed campus, probably the right word, closed campus and the security around that. Is there anything else you'd like to add on that question?
This is a really good question. I would say that I think currently our biggest risk to our kids, and it's going to sound interesting, but I think that a lot of anybody who's been in the school can kind of agree with this. I think it's honestly what's happening on the phones. I think that there's a ton of sexualized behavior happening on the phones, a ton of that stuff. A lot of most of the fights and things like that I go to start over social media. They start over a phone. And so I think a lot of it's just improper phone use, and I think that's what the biggest threat to all of our schools are, but especially our middles and highs, because that's when most of our kids are having phones. But I think we even see it when we have 4th, 5th graders that have phones. It all starts there. And adults have unfettered access to kids on social media apps, and that's another big problem. So I would say that that's probably our biggest issue.
Yeah, I appreciate you making that connection, because my mind doesn't go there, but it totally makes sense. Another question that came in, and I think sources of strength is a big part of it, which we've covered, but I'm going to say, and in addition to that, is there anything else? What plans do you have as a school district to engage teens to look for help with school staff members that can help if they need it? So I think it's like help in eliciting help-seeking behavior from our students. And I know Sources of Strength does that well. It's one of the things it does.
So the Oregon released a framework for social emotional learning, and one of the things that is happening at the secondary schools are 3 signature practices that happen in every classroom. They are things that will sound familiar. One is a warm welcome. So starting the classroom with kids connecting with each other and with their teacher to really build the relationship and learning environment that fosters those interactions. The second thing is engagement strategies that are happening throughout the classroom so that students are interacting and reflecting their own experience in what they're learning. And then the third thing is hopeful closure. And that is they're ending the class period with, again, that connection point with themselves and teachers. So the goal with that is that is happening every day as part of a strong diet of healthy social emotional learning and interacting with each other, so that when things come up, they have trusted adults that they can go and talk to in addition to their peers.
All right. I think we're going to close on that. I'm going to turn it back over to Brian. I would thank the panel, but that might be what Brian's going to do.
I want to thank Jason for doing such a great job as a moderator. Can you give him a round of applause? That was amazing. We also want to thank all of our panelists for joining us here this evening. They did a fantastic job of sharing all the information with us. They took time out of their evening to be here. I want to thank MCM Channel 11 once again for recording this and broadcasting it live and then having it available online. One of the things that Courtney mentioned was see something, hear something, say something. So we have the Safe Oregon tip line. And the Safe Oregon tip line is a phone number that people can call, an email that people can use to anonymously report something, and then we get notifications of those. And it may not be up there, but that's okay. But there's posters around schools that say Safe Oregon tip line. There it is. Good job, Mr. Haran, thank you. So you can report on the Safe Oregon tip line. There's a text, there's an email. So I think it's important that if you hear something, you see something, you say something. So thank you, everyone, all the participants, all the people. We want to make sure there are a whole bunch of coffee, snacks, cookies provided by McMinnville Seroptimus. We appreciate their partnership again as well. On your way out, please visit the tables with all that wonderful information. So thank you all again for coming, and have a wonderful evening.